On this fly, the gold-ribbed hare's ear nymph, I'm going to start a couple of eye widths back from the hook eye and put down a pretty good solid thread base all the way to the end of the shank. And we're going to use that thread base here in a moment, stopping right at the end of that shank. And we're going to add some non-lead wire to weight this fly. And I like to wrap that over the thread base. It seems to stay in place a lot better. Notice that I'm reaching way back into my scissor jaws to cut that lead wire. It's fairly soft, cuts pretty easy, but you can sure bugger up the tips of your scissors if you try to cut like that. Cut that on the tips of your scissors. Now I'm going to really open up the wraps of my thread as I go over that wire, because I want to anchor that in place. And if I don't do that the first couple of wraps over, the thread just sinks in between the wraps of the lead wire. We crisscross over that quite a bit. And the tail of this fly is going to be a tuft of hair out of a hare's mask. I'll just trim one right out of there, and I'll set that hare's mask down and measure this fellow for length and get rid of the extra. And tie that on right behind the lead wire. The two will kind of blend together and make the body. And let me trim the waist, just kind of blend the two materials together, because they actually will blend together fairly well. We'll crisscross over that. The next material that we're adding is the gold tinsel for the rib. Now I didn't have the oval gold tinsel, so I'm using some gold embossed tinsel. And it'll work out just fine. I cut the thread on the tip of the hook. Got to be careful of that sometimes, but that's why we're going to have to recover and get started over. There we go. Recovered, got the thread all attached, and it's ready to go. Now for the next part of the fly, I'm going to get a little bit adventuresome here. I'm going to put a little bit of dubbing wax on the thread, but where I'm going to get adventuresome is I'm going to make my dubbing out of the hare's mask right on screen. Now I'm just going to grab a chunk of this and pull out the guard hairs, and we're just going to kind of work that together and then touch that to the thread and start dubbing it in place. And you don't have to do that. You can buy your dubbing already mixed up in a package, and it'll be just quite fine. But this is just a fun way to show you that you don't always have to follow what it shows in the stores. But you can. I need just a little bit more there. So let's just take off another very small amount of this hare's ear. I just trimmed it off the hide, and now there we go. We don't need too much more. There we go. Good. Now I'll just trim away those guard hairs. Now let's wrap our tinsel. And we want to make sure that we leave some of that hare's ear show through and still get even turns of the tinsel. There we go. Good. Make sure that those are evenly spaced turns, though. See how it turned out nice and even. We want that little bit of flash to show up in the water. Our next material is going to be the wing case, and we're going to take that out of a turkey tail. I've already trimmed one, and just like we did with the goose, we've got this part that kind of curves down. We want to get back here into the straight fibers and use them rather than the curved fibers. And I'm going to just pull this back over and kind of use it to build up a little bit of the body rather than waste the materials. And we do need to have a little bit more thorax here than on some of the other flies, so we just use that as a little bit of underfly. And I want to wrap back so that it's tight up against the body area. Let's check and make sure. Needs to have a couple more turns. Let's see, how does that look? That looks pretty good. We'll leave that for the moment. Now let me trim another tuft of fur off of this hare's mask. And let's go ahead and dub that on the thread here at the front. We want a little bit more than we had on the back of the fly, and we may even have to do a couple of applications. We'll see how it all turns out. But we want to get that noodled on there pretty good. Now we'll just kind of build that up. So you want to kind of pinch that into place. I want to give these last couple a pretty good twist, because that'll make them just pull in and hold it much better right there at the front. Take my thumbnail and push back just a bit to provide a space for the head. This hare's ear dubbing has got a way of sneaking forward on the hook. Now we'll finish by folding this wing case over and just cinching it into place. And just like we did on the gray goose, we're going to trim this away just a little bit at a time. Let me tilt it slightly your way so you can see what we're doing. We're just going to start working our way across there, cutting that off a piece at a time. It'll make a lot cleaner cut and build up less bulk under the head. Alright, grab that whip finish tool. Cinch that down and grab our glue to do the head. And if you wish, you can also put a couple of drops of glue over the wing case. That will make the fly look a little bit better. Now I'm going to finish up by picking out the thorax area just a little bit. Not a lot, but enough to provide a little bit of bugginess to the whole overall appearance of the fly. I just think that helps it come alive in the water, but that's kind of up to you. But that's what your evaluator will be looking for, that little picked out dubbing. So you can either do it with a little brush like I've made here out of a piece of electrical wire, or you can use just the point of a bodkin and tease it out so that it makes a nice full thorax. But there's your hare's ear nymph.